Thank you for inviting me to speak, and it's great to be sat up here with some really great people. I'm Craig, I'm from DPAC, actually from DPAC Leeds, which is obviously where I live. But if I look a bit frazzled, it's not just because I've tried to put up a tent about 10 minutes ago, it's because the past 6 months, with disabled people have been put up against horrific circumstances around their very existence. We fought for the past 6 months against cuts to PIP and to universal credit. And what makes it doubly worse for us, it's come from the Labour government. For the Labour government to base its economic rejuvenation policies on the back of taking money from the most vulnerable people in society is calamitous. It's unbelievable for the Labour government to do this. At the moment, I felt like living in a parallel universe because although I'm an activist, I've been an activist for quite a number of years, I'm also a trade unionist. So I support everything that's going on in terms of the employment rights bill. But I'm sorry, we disabled people cannot concentrate or talk about the employment rights bill whilst we are being attacked. Our very existence is being attacked. It is clear to us that whatever the government proposes will be smoke and mirrors for us. The knowledge of the disability pay gap to us, what's that all about? Because disabled people are discriminated against when we talk about employment. We also know that, let's be clear, we also know that disabled people are fighting for their very existence. It's not just about work, it's about whether you're going to eat, whether you can wash yourself, or whether you're going to be able to go to the toilet. That's the basis of what thousands upon thousands of disabled people are fighting for at the moment. So in terms of work, that just comes about for second. So as I say, I'm living in a parallel universe around the employment rights bill. Well, let's look at the wider issues, yeah? We can look at what's happening with the assisted suicide bill, yeah, which has similarly gone through Parliament, yeah? So let's draw the dots from the welfare cuts to the assisted suicide bill, yeah? It's pure eugenics, yeah? People need to see this. We are being forced to question our very existence. I keep on saying that. So let's forget about whether talented disabled people can get jobs or to move into senior positions. That comes second, as you say. This is not on our radar at the moment. Not even when we need to contribute to our communities. We're not even being allowed to do that because we are so concerned about our basic living standards and independences and choices. And as for co-production, which is part of the disability movement's principles, we want to be involved in all the key decision making which is happening within government, within local government, etc. Mr. Timms wouldn't know co-production if it came up and bit him on the arse, would he? He simply hasn't got a clue what we mean by co-production, and this is something that DPAC and other disability rights groups will be pushing for. Co-production in all key decision making. The other thing which I need to talk about is that the government and individual Labour MPs, I've seen them on the telly, the mass media, have been ramping up the calls around disabled job seekers being lazy. There's been that clear emphasis upon that. The lie that fraud or PIP and other disability benefits is somehow sky high. But it's a lie because it's so small, it's minimal. And the other smoke screen is around the increase in welfare spending. Again, that's not multiplied by any significant numbers. It's not the same. It's not fallen as a proportion of GDP since 2010. So it's all smoke and mirrors. And if I was to begin to look at jobs for disabled people, we concentrate far too much on disabled people themselves. The government talk about investing in money to support disabled people into jobs. Why don't we talk about employers who discriminate against us? Why don't we talk about the education system which is stacked against us? Why don't we talk about any funding which is going into supporting disabled people into jobs being cut? We seem to concentrate on the wrong thing. So to try and be a bit more positive, I think DPAC and other disability organisations, we are demanding a fundamental shift in how we look at disabled people and disabled workers in particular. We've had 30 years of anti-discrimination legislation in this country. But what good has it done to disabled people? Some would argue that it has done them good. I think it's done us no good at all. We haven't moved forward in our fundamental inclusion in society. Never mind jobs. So, I would suggest that we need to bin the Equalities Act in terms of the disability sections in the Equality Act because it's based upon the medical model and it pits disabled worker against disabled worker and it pits groups of disabled people against each other. We have to prove we have a disability before we can move forward in terms of our employment rights. We have to prove that employers are discriminated against us. That is so ridiculous. We need to change it to a fundamental shift, which is about giving us a legal right, civil rights legislation, which gives us the right to be included and to if we talk about employment, be employed. And we need to shift it around so that employers and service providers are the focus and they need to prove they are not discriminated against us. It's the wrong way around. We also need to ensure that we co-produce these new rights and we are very willing in DPAC and other disability rights organisations to get involved in that. We have a saying in our activist movement which is nothing about us without us, And I think that has to go for anything which is going to be proposed. The Employment Rights Bill, we need to look at. We need to look at any new legislation coming forward. As I said, we are pressing for legislation based upon the social model of disability rather than the medical model. And we also would like to work with trade unions to consider whether their funding of Labour MPs who voted for the cuts, we need to ensure that those MPs are challenged on that very principle. We applaud those Labour MPs who supported us in the bill. We really do. But it's a bit of a question why you're in a party in the government who are basing their proposals upon putting benefits for disabled people. And the final thing I'd like to say is that we need to look at the DWP. We, as disabled activists, disabled people, fully agree that welfare needs to be reformed, and we need to ensure that disabled people are prepared to go into work. Indeed, the younger disabled people have begun to say that. Yeah? Young people deserve the right to go into jobs. So let's look at the DWP. We need to work with the DWP. We need to tell people around that, because at the moment the DWP listens far too much to American providers, I've forgotten the word for it, but yeah, NHS providers, they listen to them rather than to listen to disabled people. We know what the things are, we know what the problems are with the welfare system, so why not involve us? So, yeah, nothing about us without us. Thank you. But the way that the current government is going on at the moment, it is disenfranchising the working classes. Disabled people, are part and parcel of communities. A lot of disabled people are cared for by workers. By attacking the most vulnerable people in society, we are opening the door, or the Labour government is opening the door for the far right, for Nigel Farage. And that scares the shit out of me. I've got to say, the spectre of a Farage-led government would, destroy disabled people once and for all. They will promote the assisted suicide bill and the provisions within that. Yeah? We will be forced to look at suicide rather than going on in our lives. Yeah? In terms of the NHS, and the voluntary sector, I've worked in the voluntary sector for the past 20 years, and I've been trying to promote the rights of disabled people and minorities in terms of the NHS and workers. Yeah? We've been trying to get contracts to the voluntary sector for years, and it's been an uphill struggle, to the right voluntary sector organisations. And you're right, disabled workers are not necessarily in a union, but why would they when they're still fighting for their minimum rights? We need to explore why disabled people aren't joining in with things like trade unions. We need to understand that. I know that I'm part of Unite's disabled members, and we go to the TUC, but all we seem to talk about is reasonable adjustments, or something like that. Why aren't we talking about why disabled people aren't getting into jobs in the first place? And we need to look at the NHS, we need to look at the voluntary sector in particular to promote that. And you're right to say that it's intersectional, because gender rights, trans rights, etc., LGBT plus rights, disabled people, and all those people. So we need to ensure it's intersectional. We need to do that in terms of trade unions. In terms of what the question, and a couple other questions, there's some common denominators with what's happened to disabled people and the proposed legislation and the welfare cuts. And I think it's really important that disabled people have led the way in terms of challenging the government. We've led the way in contacting our local MPs, mostly Labour MPs, saying, why are you standing by these welfare cuts? So I think the same has to be done with the government and individual Labour MPs and say, why aren't you bringing these workers' rights forward now? What is the delay? We need to contact them directly, yeah? Contact the government, lobby the government, do whatever we've done. And as I said, DPAC have led the way in that. And if you want to come and talk to us as to how to do it, we'll be very willing to let you know how we've gone about trying to challenge and hold this government to account. That's the way forward, I think.